Hey guys, Skylar here. Thanks for listening to this episode. It was a banger. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your podcatcher and YouTube.
And this is Jordan. We are also on social media. Check us out on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
And if you want to be a supporting listener, check us out on Patreon, where you get ad-free and early episodes before they drop on the regular feed. You can also support us with Bitcoin or PayPal.
And don't forget to give us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, let's get into the weird world of the preeminent Western philosopher, Plato.
Let's go.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it.
For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, against flesh and blood, against flesh.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
But against principalities, against powers, against powers, against powers.
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality.
And against the rulers of the darkness of this age, the darkness of this age, the darkness of this age.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
But you have admitted that love, from lack of good and beautiful things, desires these very things that he lacks.
Yes, I have.
How then can he be a god, if he is devoid of things beautiful and good?
By no means, it appears.
So you see, she said, you are a person who does not consider love to be a god.
What then, I asked, can love be? Immortal?
Anything but that.
Well, what?
As I previously suggested, between a mortal and an immortal.
And what is that, Diotima?
A great spirit, Socrates, for the whole of the spiritual is between divine and mortal.
Possessing what power, I asked.
Interpreting and transporting human things to the gods, and divine things to men. Entreaties and sacrifices from below, and ordinances and requitals from above. Being midway between. It makes each to supplement the other, so that the whole is combined in one. Through it are conveyed all divination and priestcraft concerning sacrifice, and ritual and incantations, and all soothsaying and sorcery. God with man does not mingle, but the spiritual is a means of all society, and converse of men with gods, and of gods with men, whether waking or asleep. Whosoever has skill in these affairs is a spiritual man, to have it in other matters, as in common arts and crafts, is for the mechanical. Many and multifarious are these spirits, and one of them is love.
Plato's Symposium, lines 202 to 203.
In the Apology of Socrates, Plato writes of his mentor, the namesake of the book, in which he recounts having a daimon that guided him throughout his life. This entity cautions Socrates against entering politics and instead to become a teacher of philosophy. The daimon, or daimonion, as it is sometimes called, appears numerous times in Plato's writing. In his book, The Cratylus, Hermogenes asks Socrates what the nature of the being is. The teacher goes on to explain that they were a golden race, the first race of men ever born before all other tribes and ethnicities, but that they were wiped out by fate. He further elaborates, stating that when a good man of the golden race dies, he becomes a spirit. This spirit, presumably, attaches itself to another living human being in the form of a daimon, given said human all of the knowledge and wisdom he gained throughout his own corporeal life. The spirit serves multiple functions, not only as a guide to its subjects, but also as a protector and a bridge to the eternal. Socrates implied that the daimon doesn't just offer counsel, it actively watches over its host, steering them through life's uncertainties with a kind of preternatural foresight. It's as if the spirit, having once lived as a virtuous man of the golden race, retains a clarity unclouded by the distractions of the present world. Beyond guiding, it also connects the individual to something timeless, linking the fleeting existence of a human life to the enduring wisdom of those who came before. This dual role elevates the daimon from a mere advisor to a vital force, one that enriches the soul and prepares it for its own eventual transition into the afterlife, perhaps to become a daimon itself for another. In perhaps his most famous work, The Republic, Plato tells of the myth of In his final passages of the book, in the story, a character by the name of of Pamphylia is killed in battle. His body, along with his fallen comrades, are collected to prepare for burial. But something strange happens with The normal processes of decomposition never happen. His remains are perfectly preserved, with no sign of decay for 10 days. As the priests and officials prepare his body for cremation on the funeral pile, he suddenly awakens, miraculously resurrected from eternal slumber. Those present for the procession are dumbfounded at what appears to be an impossibility. Then tells those present about his ordeal and what happened to his soul in the ethereal realm. He explains that he, along with a large host of other souls, encountered judges who rendered verdicts on each individual if they were good or wicked in their life. The good ones were allowed to ascend to bliss, while the wicked were doomed for punishment and cruel tortures. But after rewards and punishments were handed out, they would be reincarnated as a new life form in the physical plane, which the souls had some choice in. Each person would be assigned a daimon to guide them through the afterlife back into the material world in whatever new form they would take on. The funny thing about how the ancient Greeks used the term myth was that it did not necessarily denote a fictitious event, at least not in the way we moderns would view it. This is a problem in general with the English perception of the word, in that we often believe a myth to be some sort of tall tale that is meant to convey an important truth. We might call it truthful, but not factual. But again, as we have previously discussed, this is rather presumptuous to assume that the author was not being earnest. Who is to say that was not a real person? There is some scant evidence, more so circumstantial, that might suggest it was a myth or allegory of some type. But the very fact that Plato refers to the name of a person who was of a family from a place seems to put such an assertion in doubt. This is, of course, not to say that if was a real person, that his experiences played out exactly as depicted by Plato, but it would suggest that Plato himself possibly believed in the veracity of the claims. We often forget that the Greek philosophers were immersed in a culture that existed in a certain time and place. They believed in a panoply of supernatural beings that populated the heavens and all of the unseen realms. That the gods could affect the weather, help you win a war, or give you a good crop. To them, magic was everywhere, and that men could access it either through ritual or providence. That was the world and belief system that Plato inhabited, and modern scholars are often far too tempted to separate him from that world. They will make him out to be some kind of detached materialist who only believed in what he could test scientifically. we too readily boil all of Plato's writings, especially those of a fantastic nature, to simply allegory or metaphor. But is that a safe assumption to make? Was there something more to his belief in spirits, gods, and daemons? So Plato's belief in the daemon was almost certainly not allegorical, but many modern scholars insist he was just talking about his conscience, arguing that Greeks didn't have a word for it yet, even though they invented like so much. Anyways,
yeah.
So
It's
what
like
do you think about that?
They sort of assert that the word daemon is this kind of clumsy placeholder for your conscience, like your own inner dialogue.
Right.
Yeah. And again, this is.
I'm pretty sure humans have understood their own thoughts when they think them. Like they talk in their brain without using your mouth. Like I understood that as a very small child. So I didn't need anyone to explain it to me.
Exactly. So this is like almost like this, I don't know, patronizing view of the ancient peoples, that they didn't.
They're so advanced, but they're also so retarded.
They didn't have their own inner dialogue. That they just used these like sort of terms interchangeably. And again, I don't. If you just look at the culture in which Plato existed, it was a very widespread belief in the supernatural. Now, to be fair, there were some Greeks who were coming maybe around but probably after Plato, who were sort of like placing this doubt in the supernatural and claims of God and whatnot.
Secularist.
Sort of secularist Greeks. But even then, I think it's maybe a stretch to say, well, these guys are basically David Hume,
right?
No, they're not the first iterations of Richard Dawkins and Carl Sagan.
Yeah, definitely not.
These guys existed in a deeply magical and supernatural world. That was the world that they viewed. And I kind of take Plato at his word when he's talking with an entity, and that this entity comes to you and gives you knowledge.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why there's this always there's just this temptation to sort of explain away these kinds of things, especially from guys like Plato, who are sort of Western philosophy is based on, because we're just so allergic to these kind of supernatural claims, that we just cannot accept that these people who have built our society, built the philosophical framework on which our society exists, had these beliefs. It's we get all cringy and uppity about it, and I think it's just I think you're wrong.
yeah. No, that's that's great. If you had a society that was as great as the Greeks for the time, it's very interesting that you would probably see more secularism as things got better. You would see a more materialist paradigm start to form, even around the old ideas and the old beliefs. So I could see that, but I also wonder if that's just our own projecting. Was there actually? I don't know that there were secular Greeks. Were there?
I would say progenitors to secularism. I wouldn't say strictly secularists. But.
I mean, there could have been the kind of lukewarm believer who just showed up to whatever ceremony, once or twice a year, and that was that, and they didn't think about it after. Yeah. But that's the comfort of a developing modern society where things are getting infinitely better, right?
Yeah, and you start relying so heavily on your own abilities,
and your technology,
and your technology, right? So then I can actually see why the materialist explanation for things becomes so tempting, because
of course
it's such a great explanation. Look, we have these scientific methods now that we can use. We don't need to talk to these spirits that maybe do or do not exist or whatnot, right? So
yeah,
they're
we don't need to put the effort in to
exactly.
be with them. Yes, correct.
Now I wanted to get into a little bit of maybe some etymology here, but the Greek daimon versus the Hebrew demon that we find in sort of the New Testament.
Right.
So just to be aware, so the word daimon appears, I don't know, 300 years before the New Testament, something like that is written, at least when Plato was writing about the daimon. It's obviously older, but the Hebrew demon that is referenced in the Gospels and the Book of Acts is a very similar word written in the Koine Greek. It's obviously like the same word. It might have changed a little bit over those few hundred years from like
Interesting.
ancient Greece into the Greek or the Roman territories, which would have been Palestine, or not Palestine, the Judea at the time. So it is when they talk about the demon and the daimon, they are like when Jesus casts out demons, or when the apostles are talking about demons, they are talking about, they're using that same word.
Oh, interesting.
Conceptually, they are talking about the same thing.
Right.
But obviously the Hebrews have a very different perspective on the daimon.
Right.
And see it as primarily as a evil force or a negative force,
right,
and not as a positive force or a neutral force. Like the Greeks had like kind of a wide array of views about daimons or demons, but they viewed demons, they could be good, they could be bad, they could be neutral. There wasn't exactly they weren't just easily categorized. But when you get to the New Testament, and this could just be, Jewish culture viewing everything from Hellenization and Greco-Roman culture as being like bad. You could explain it that
I
way.
see. Yeah. Like they view everything that comes from their civilization as bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Or as opposed to it's opposing their culture and civilization. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely.
That makes sense.
Now, again, it depends on what your persuasion is. Like full disclosure here, I'm more partial to the New Testament viewing of the demon, and the how it manifests in people and how this thing is interacting with people. But again, there's going back to the point about the daimon was more than just Plato's own internal dialogue. If we read the writings of the New Testament, like they believe that these were entirely separate entities from the person in which they inhabit.
Right. Yeah. That directly influenced their reasoning and their wisdom, gave them. Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah. And there's now this is really interesting. Might be we'll go into this little tangent here, but so obviously, like mechanistically, they had a kind of a similar view that the Greeks had about the daimon, in that it was a spirit of the unseen realm, and would more or less possess a living person. Now, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the work of the late Dr. Michael Heiser, who is an Old Testament scholar, and he makes a compelling case that the Hebrews, particularly from the Second Temple period, which was the time of Jesus to about 300 years before Jesus, that these demons were the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, who are the pre-flood race of giants that is very briefly mentioned in the Bible and more spoken about at more length in the Book of Enoch. So the gist of it is the Second Temple period was, they believed that these demons were the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, and they were cursed to sort of roam the earth until the time of the judgment by Yahweh. But they would, in doing so, they would like find houses to inhabit, if you will, and that would be like the human beings. And again, I want to say I found this idea from Michael Heiser in his book, The Unseen Realm, which is an excellent book. It's not like there are lots of other scholars who actually like sort of subscribe to this view that is what the understanding of a demon was in the Second Temple period.
Yeah.
Right. That they were these ghosts essentially of Nephilim.
Yeah.
And that they would they would go in and haunt, or if you will, a person whoever would let them in. And again, this isn't all that different from the golden race of the Greeks.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy.
It's so similar.
Yeah.
It's like, there was the Greeks believe again, but they believe that this golden race was like benevolent beings, whereas the Hebrews believe they were malevolent. And so there's sort of like, you see these competing perspectives about who the golden race was. The Hebrews would call them Nephilim, and they were the offspring of angelic entities and human women.
Right.
And the golden race similarly is like some sort of like hybrid human god.
Perfect. Yeah. Some kind of perfect
like race. And that these golden race, they die and their spirits go into people basically after. It's
they stay kind of they stay here. They don't go elsewhere.
Yeah,
exactly. And they kind of roam. So I do like that, but I do also kind of subscribe a little bit to that Greek view. I don't think that every spirit or every daemon is necessarily a dead Nephilim. I think that there are I think that there's probably some kind of spiritual ecosystem that exists outside of our understanding so far. I think we're starting to kind of get it. I notice a lot of people are starting to speculate on a lot of things. Well, like 1 + 2 = 3. So type of thinking is what I'm getting at. But yeah, I just like, how many Nephilim could there have been to be that many? Right?
It's so hard to say.
Was there billions of Nephilim? Like,
there could have been. I mean, it's hard to say because it's so vague.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
The sort of the descriptions of these things, but again, even just conceptually, the thing of it, you see that they both had a premise that they were working from as ancient civilization. Antediluvian civilization, right? That was like very powerful, and they died off somehow. But they still influence the world in the form of some kind of entity,
right?
Up to this day,
yeah.
And and now, and also just making that connection between the Hebrew demon and the daimon, which a lot of people don't actually. A lot of people, especially in like the Christian world, don't totally make that connection.
Yeah,
there's a lot of overlap between these ideas.
Yeah, there is. That's that's really interesting. I guess like for me, I would think the way Mike Heiser describes it, it would seem like, especially entities that are possessing you or influencing you, it would seem like they're the bad ones.
Yeah.
But I also think there's other entities out there that don't necessarily possess people too, and I don't think they're dead Nephilim. I think it's the specifically malevolent ones, possibly.
Well, I again, this is
it's so speculative. Yeah, we have no idea. We have literally no idea.
But I agree with you. There are other entities, and they could fit again. Malevolent, benevolent, or maybe neutral in some ways. And I think even in the biblical worldview, there's room for that, obviously, like angels.
Of course.
They aren't, I don't think there is the belief that a typical like Michael is or Gabriel are like disembodied spirits of Nephilim. I don't think that's ever been.
Yeah, well, clearly,
Yeah, they're spirit beings or entities. Yeah. Elohim, as Heiser would call them, but I think you're right. But I do wonder if the specific entities that possess people, is there something mechanistically going on where they can only possess people because they used to have a body themselves.
Yeah.
They're like some sort of species of entity that can actually go into physical people, whereas other species of entities cannot do that because they're different species altogether.
Right. So that would, if you go into the Bible, it says in Genesis 6, it's the sons of God, which we translate basically as some kind of angelic being or an Elohim.
Yeah.
Come into the daughters of men and breed with them.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, and so those offspring are called the Nephilim, and so they would be half human. So that might be the mechanism that you're talking about, where they have access to us.
Yeah, because they were physically embodied at one point.
Right.
But
they still have the features of their father, where they float around as spirits as well, and can't go to where other spirit, like a normal human, can go.
Exactly. So they sort of have some abilities that a typical entity that is just purely an entity doesn't have, and they also have some capabilities that only humans in the physical world have, right? So therefore they're the daimons, right? Like, but not to be, again, this is all like, I know it's confusing, but not to be confused with other entities.
Yes, there's still other stuff that goes bump in the night other than these things.
Precisely, and like when we're talking about people that communicate with Ashtaroth or Baal or Moloch, any of these characters, those seem to be they're not demons. They're entirely different entities.
Yes.
A different species of entity, if you will.
Yeah.
Again, these are all lack for better terms.
Yeah. In the ecosystem, whatever it is, whatever that looks like or seems like.
Yeah, and even if we're like wrong about all of that, I think that's something close to how they would have understood it at the very least back then. Even if we're wrong about maybe the supernatural claims, but I don't think we are. Anyways, the idea of the daimon, it continues to this day. Many in the esoteric and occult circles actively try to communicate with daimons. Carl Jung actually wrote a whole bunch
crazy
about the daimon. And, I'm sorry, Jung is just weird. He's a weird dude. Strange weird. And very hard to read. I've tried to read some Jung, and it's like dense, and I don't know.
I've read some specific quotes that seem smart, but I bet you if I went into the actual paragraph that was in.
Oh, I mean, you could quote mine all day, but the vast majority of his writings just seem like psychobabble to me. That's just maybe smarter people can like get a better handle on. I mean, even Plato is hard to read, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's not easy, but that's more like a translation issue. Carl Jung is modern. Anyways, like the daimon is like very much still alive today. The whole idea, many in the modern occult have these practices, these rituals where they try to connect or contact daimons. Even many of them wanting to be possessed by daimons.
Yes.
But they view it as like a beneficial thing, as a positive thing. Like they're entering into this like partnership with this spirit entity.
Right. And they also see it as a manifestation of their somehow subconscious or their higher being or whatever that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little weird.
Yeah. And again, the occult is always very slippery to get your hands around, to know exactly what they're talking about. And it could just be my modern mind, because I like to categorize everything and have nice, neat lines formed around everything. Yeah. And a lot in the occult is very difficult to do that around. But I do find it can be somewhat slippery to know precisely what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And the thing we're gonna end here with a clip, from another podcast, and you'll get a little bit of sense of what I'm talking about. And not necessarily, this isn't necessarily occultic, but it's sort of a lot of the same language. But the following is a conversation from John Vervaeke had on the Third Eye Drops podcast with Michael Phillips. So I do want to give credit to the Third Eye Drops podcast. This is the clip pulled from them. So make sure to check out his channel for the entire interview. In this podcast, John Vervaeke, he's a professor at the University of Toronto, and he's the director of their cognitive science program. So this guy, he's very highly cited. He's like a well-respected cognitive scientist in his field. He I mean, he's very highly credentialed. I'm not just some like weird occultist on YouTube who psychobabble. Like, I think he has some, I don't know, credibility, if you will. Anyways, in this interview, the professor retells his own experience with what he describes as an entity named Hermes, who he speaks with regularly and believes to be his own personal daimon. It is difficult to pin down exactly what Mr. Vervaeke understands Hermes to be ontologically. Is it a literal spirit, his own consciousness personified in some way, a quote-unquote part spoken about in dissociative identity disorder? So you'll hear him referring to the daimon as a part, and so that's also a term that's used in like dissociative identity, or formerly known as multiple identity disorder. So like when you have like a different personality, they call them parts. So John Vervaeke uses that language as well in this clip. So I don't want to misrepresent Vervaeke, but it is kind of difficult to pin down exactly what he believes this phenomenon to be. But, let's just listen to his own words and you guys be the judge. And with that, we're going to sign off, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks.
I'm just going to describe this phenomenologically and narratively, and then we can later reflect on it, philosophically, scientifically. A presence came in, and it wasn't in my head. It was sort of that in-between space that the parts are in. They're not just in here. They're not in the external world. They're what I call that transjective space. They're there, right? A presence comes in, and it was like sort of swept aside everything else and said, no, put all that aside. You're going to address me now. And it wasn't like imperious, but it was powerful, right? And it had a numinous presence to it. And, and I said, well, who are you? I just thought it was another powerful part. No, this isn't a part, right? I'm Hermes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was sort of like, what is this going to be about? And it was like, I want to enter into a relationship with you. And that was, and of course, part of me is just scared, and scared in different ways. I'll try to be really honest here. I'll spill my guts. Part of me is worried that I push things too far and I'm losing sanity, right? Another part of me, because I was brought up in fundamentalist Christians, thinks I've somehow confronted a demon, and and all those things that they warned me about, all that meditation opening me up to demonic forces, turned out to be true.
I'm sure there's like at least a percentage of people in the comments who are going to reassure you that that's definitely what you've done, and you need to.
Yes. What I can tell them is I took that seriously. I'm enough of a scientist to not jump into any one of these hypotheses, but neither did I reject any of them. I said, okay, I'm going to hold these and I'm going to test them. That was my initial attitude. And then what happened is I was relating this to another very dear friend of mine who's a Jungian and practicing psychotherapist, Anderson Todd, and he said, oh, that's the ally. And he pointed me to Raf's book on ally work. Many people have had this experience. And then, of course, almost immediately, I remembered because I'm a devotee, a follower of Socrates, I remembered Socrates' daimonium, his divine sign that spoke to him. And all of this was starting to say, something else is going on here that doesn't fall cleanly into the two automatic categories of madness or demonic encounter. And so I committed to a regular dialogical relationship. And so once or twice a week, depending on where, because I have a rotating schedule of practices where it fits in. I put, after I've done meditation and other things, I sit down and I open up and I write it down, and I have a dialogue with Hermes. And he has been tremendously insightful. And it's also the fact that he is in some sense learning, taking shape as this goes on. And very often things come out in those discussions that are they're orienting for me. They're very, very helpful for me. And then I've had one very powerful visionary experience. I was going to bed, and this was near the beginning when things were very, and Hermes is initially this powerful archetypal numinous presence. He's become more sage-like and less sort of shockingly numinous.
Less abstract, more...
Yeah, and more in the sense of a mentor, more friendly and less just sort of, right? And because one of the things I do when I dialogue is I don't just write down what he says. I sort of describe any image of what he's doing or what his affect might be. I do it like stage descriptions. I put that in brackets. So I'm trying to, bring all of these different channels of communication. But this was early on, and I was going to bed, and I turned to my left, and I had a visual experience, also a sense presence of this figure that looked very much like a figure in bronze armor, kind of an amalgam of Michael the Archangel and Hermes, the Greek god. Very, very powerful. And then in one other, I don't know what to call it, presencing, Hermes showed up in a dream and was very helpful in the dream. And to people who are worried, I've asked Hermes what he is. I've asked him about, what does he think about Jesus, for example. And one of the most recent things he said to me that I don't know how to process. And he says things like this all the time. He says, John, you're on a dark road back to Christianity. And he didn't mean dark in the sense of evil. He meant dark in you can't understand it or foresee it. And the philosophical Silk Road is, and what that's going to be, and things like that. And there's things like that he's repeatedly done. He'll just get me to notice. Do you think that a lot of your suffering is due to the fact that you're just too impatient?
Thanks for listening, everyone. Stay tuned for the next one. Check out all of our links in the description of the episode. And if you become a supporting member, you can get this episode extended and ad-free.